What's up and welcome to the channel. My name is Headshot and thank you guys for joining us for our comparison on the TP9SF Elite and the Glock 19 Gen 4. This is going to be a great video. We're going to talk about a lot, everything from pros and cons on both of these pistols. We're of course going to do some shooting and then we're going to kind of get to the bottom of this thing and see if the $380 Canik is just as good as the $550 Glock. And of course we're going to talk about everything, specs, any kind of unique features that both of these have, and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. Really quick, before we do that, if you want to check us out over on Facebook and Twitter, we're doing giveaways and updates on the channel and all this kind of stuff. Patreon, if you want to help our channel out any further, you can do it over there. And then also the discount codes in the description and every video. You can save money on everything from holsters, gun belts, patriotic gear, all of that great stuff. So make sure you check those things out. And thank you guys for all of the support you give us in every way. So the Canik, you're going to get a lot of stuff here. You're going to get a cleaning brush with the rod. You're also going to get this little paddle style holster. Not the best holster, but it comes with it. So it's something to get you started anyways. You're going to get the gun, two 15-round magazines. There's your other magazine, of course. You're going to get the replacement fiber optics. All right, so if you want to change it out to a green one or you want to replace your red one, you have those right there. You are also going to get an assist loader and then one extra back strap. The back strap that comes on the gun is a little bit smaller than the other one they give you. All right, so let's go ahead and get this stuff out of the way and show you what comes with the Glock. Flip this around and you're gonna get you're gonna get a lot of things as well. You're gonna get the gun, of course, three 15-round magazines. All right, so that's one up from the Canik. You're gonna get a little rod. You're also gonna get a brush. I don't know what happened to the brush, but you do get a brush. You're gonna get your manual, all that kind of stuff. And then you're going to get your back straps. So you're going to have small, medium, and large, and then you're going to have your two options that have the beaver tail on there, and then a little assist loader as well. All right, so let's get this one out of the way and talk about some of the features that make each one of these guns unique. Specs really quick on the Canik. Overall height is 5.2 inches. Width is 1.45 inches. All right, so it is a little bit wider of a gun. 7.28 inches overall in length, and then 4.1 inches on your barrel length. All right, and then weight is 1.77 pounds unloaded. And then on the Glock, the height is 4.99 inches. So we'll go ahead and show you how that looks compared to the Canik here really quick. We'll do it as we're talking. So you can see right there you have just a little bit of difference in height, but for all intents and purposes it's pretty much the same. There is a little bit of difference there though. On the Glock, as far as the width, it's 1.1 inches. So it is a little bit thinner, and that may not sound like a big difference, 0.3 of an inch, but it definitely makes a difference inside the waistband if you're going to be carrying one of these guns. So just keep that in mind. Overall length on the Glock 19 is 7.3 inches. So it is actually a little bit longer if we butt those up. Yeah, so overall on the length, I don't know where they're measuring, but from what I got off of Glock and Canik's website, they're saying that the Glock is actually longer, but it doesn't look like that to me. So I don't know how they're measuring these guns, but even with the little bit of barrel that sticks out from the Glock, it's still not longer. So just take that for what it's worth. And then the Glock is 23.65 ounces unloaded. As far as the features, let's go ahead and go over the Glock. You have the standard Glock style rail with your one slot, a squared off trigger guard that is serrated in there in the front, and then it is a pretty high undercut underneath the trigger guard. You have your finger grooves. Some people love them, some people hate them, depending on how your fingers sit in there. To me, it really doesn't make that big of a difference. They fit in there pretty nicely, but they don't really bug me that much either. I kind of prefer to have no finger grooves whatsoever, but on this it doesn't really bug me. The magazine release is reversible, all right, and then it is the oversized because this is the Gen 4. Magazine sticks out a little bit from the bottom right there, but it works pretty well. You can see that the magazines kind of hang up in there, and then we'll talk about the magazines hang up in the Canik as well. So you have your hump back here, and then you have your little channel that you can slide your replacement back straps in. All you have to do is push this little pin out and slide your new one up in there. Slide stop right here. You can get extended slide stops and whatever kind of accessories you want for a Glock, you can get it. But standard from the factory, it's pretty flush to the frame, and it doesn't bother me. I can get to it when I need it. And then to the other side of the pistol, your slide stop is not ambidextrous or anything like that. And we're also going to talk about the trigger after the shooting part of the review, so I don't want you to think I'm leaving that out, but we will talk about that. And then the Achilles heel for me on the Glock are the standard Glock sights. You can see right there, you drop the front dot in the bucket, all that kind of crap. They're plastic, and they are definitely something that, in my opinion, should be replaced. This is not my Glock 19, by the way. This is my dad's gun. He's letting us borrow it for a review. So the finish, it's no longer the Tenifer. It's actually a nitrite finish, and then you have the cold hammer forged barrel. And then also on the Glock 19, you have your two little takedown notches right there. And then the grip texture, you have these little pyramid style bumps on the grip all the way around, and they do a pretty decent job of keeping the gun in your hand, I must say. On the Canik, you have a standard 1913 style rail, not really squared off, it's more rounded off in the trigger guard, but it is serrated. Up under the trigger guard, you have a pretty good undercut, but not as cut out as the Glock 19. The magazine release, it is reversible, all right, and the magazines have the same problem on the Canik like they do the Glock, and actually this one is a little bit worse, and these have a coating on them, so I'm not sure why they don't drop free, but they don't. On the front, you have these different style little squares, rectangles, some of them, as far as on the grip texture. It does a pretty decent job. And then over here, you have the little type of squigglies that are really close together, kind of like a PPQ style deal. Hump back here in the back, and then you have your one little pin right there, so you can punch that pin out and change your back strap if you want to. You also have what I thought was a pretty nice touch, is you have a little stippling right there, so you can put your thumb and you can kind of keep it in place. Front and rear slide serrations. This coloring is a tungsten Cerakote over phosphate, and it looks absolutely awesome, I think. Match grade barrel, Warren tactical sights, so you can see in the rear they are blacked out, and then on the front sight you have that red fiber optic. Really does a great job during the day. One thing about it though too, one good thing I think they did is if you don't like these sights, they cut the dovetails so they'll fit with most aftermarket sight options, so that's pretty great. In the rear you have a striker indicator, so when you pull that trigger, it's going to let you know the striker is dropped. Reset it and it comes back, okay? Over here, slide stop is ambidextrous. All right, so left-handed shooters, you have that, and then you can reverse your magazine release, so that might work out a little better for you. Extractor, you know, a lot of this stuff is pretty much the same, and then you also have a loaded chamber indicator. It's going to pop up red when you have a round in the chamber. So both guns are kind of different in the way they come about it. The Glocks, although we have our 4th generation, you know, really besides little minor changes here and there, they are pretty much the same gun. Canik has taken their line towards more of a standard type of Glock style. They've taken the decocker away and all that kind of stuff, and then they also have attributes of, you know, Walther and different things going on, but they've made a pretty solid gun. Right here are your takedown notches, similar to the Glock. They're just going to be bigger, okay? So let's go ahead and show you how they break down, and then we'll get to the shooting and show you the triggers, pros and cons, all that good stuff. Alright, so let's go ahead and break down the Glock here really quick. You of course want to pull the magazine out, make sure it's clear. pull the trigger, cheat back on the slide just a little bit, and pull down on those 2 notches, and it's gonna release the slide. You have a dual captive guide rod right here. It is plastic, all right, if that means anything to you, but it is a captive guide rod. And then here is your barrel, all right. These are known for being high quality, striker block, all that good stuff. This one still has the factory grease in it. Actually, my dad wanted to be the first one to shoot it, but he's had it for a while now and hasn't shot it. So I told him I'm gonna take that honor. Here are your points of contact, your rail. All right, you have 4 points of contact. All this stuff, you know, you guys have seen a lot, at least on the internet. On the Canik, it is pretty similar. You're gonna pull the trigger, cheat back on the slide just a little bit. You're gonna get to a point where you stop. You just lift it up and off. This one is not a captive guide rod, but it is metal. All right, and then you have your match grade barrel right there. And Canik, to be honest with you, the time that they've been out with their pistols, or that they've had their pistols out, they've been known as well to have high quality firearms. Right here you have your striker block, all that kind of stuff, and then internally, you know, they look very similar. You know, you have your ejector right there, trigger bar, points of contact, you know, your rail, all that good stuff. So some of the springs are in different spots, but you know, they are very similar. All right, so let's go ahead and put these things back together. You want to make sure with your recoil spring that you push it all the way down in there. You have a little cutout. Let me take this out. You have a little cutout at the top of the barrel right there. You don't want it to sit down in there. You want it to sit down in here, all right, on this ledge. Trust me, it'll aggravate you if you do it the other way. So just like that. And then what you're going to do, you're going to line this cutout with this rail right here. All right, line it up and then just push it back. Function check, and we're good. Glock is a little bit more straightforward. Put your recoil spring in there. All right, and then slide your slide back on. Function check, we are good. All right, so let's go ahead and get to the range. We'll show you guys how these shot and some of the differences in the way they handle the recoil and all that kind of stuff. And we will see you guys in a minute and talk about pros and cons, and we will definitely show you guys those triggers. See you guys in a minute. Alright, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Both guns, they do really well. I haven't had malfunctions with either one. We had to move the table around a little bit because of the sun, but let's go ahead and show you guys these triggers. They are of course safe, and let's go ahead and see what the Canik pulls at. 3 pounds 12 ounces. Let's try that again. It looked like it was moving a little bit before I even started to pull it. 3 pounds 13 ounces, so under 4 pounds. This trigger, you got the little red dingish right there in the middle of the trigger. It is serrated as well. Once you hit that wall though, just a beautiful break on this thing. Reset, audible, and you can feel it, and you're ready to go again. Awesome trigger on the Canik. They've always had good triggers on them though. The Glock is going to be a little bit heavier. Let me show you the weight here really quick. Sometimes I'm getting higher readings, 5.5 pounds. With the Glock, they're kind of hard to pull because of the way they shape them. So sometimes if you pull from like the middle, you're going to get a higher reading than if you pull from the bottom, which is where you're going to be pulling from anyways. Oh, that was really light. Let's try this again. 5 pounds 3 ounces, so around 5.5 pounds. That's what they list. And then as far as the way the trigger looks, you have of course the safe action design, and it's serrated. A little bit of creep in the trigger, and a much heavier break than the Canik. Reset, audible, tactile, and you're ready to go again. The Glock trigger, there's nothing really wrong with it. It's just a little bit heavier, but it's still a decent trigger. All kinds of kits and things you can get for the trigger. You can get the disconnectors and all that kind of stuff to make them lighter, or the ghost connectors, you know. So you can definitely clean this up a little bit. You know, that just depends on if you like this trigger out of the box. I think it does a good enough job, to be honest with you. But so there you go. The guns shoot very well. I mean, really, I'm not a fan of the sights and all this kind of stuff on the Glock, but even though I think it's a con, I can't hold anything against it because it does its job. It works just fine. Both guns handle the recoil just fine. I don't notice that the Canik jumps a little bit more in my hand. I know somebody might mention the bore axis on the Canik. You can see how much higher it sits up in my hand compared to the Glock, but I don't notice that this gun you know, jumps up or anything less than what this gun does. So as far as recoil and shooting, I think both of them do a fine job. Let's go ahead and talk about the pros and cons of each and end the video out. Let's start with the Canik. The pros, you have these awesome sights, the tungsten Cerakote, front and rear slide serrations, an amazing trigger, all the things that you get with this gun at $380. That is a deal. You just don't get much better than that in the realm of firearms for quality pieces like this. Now, as far as cons on this gun, the grip is a little bit thick and a little bit slick. Too thick for Mrs. Headshot and too slick for me. You know, it's just something you have to kind of deal with. I found myself wearing my gloves most of the time while I was shooting this gun because it is so slick. They could use different sets of back straps to take this hump out and just kind of give it more of a straight down type of maybe like a 1911 type of grip angle, and I think that would make it more comfortable for her. And the grip texture all the way around needs to be a little bit more aggressive. And also the magazines hang up in the gun, and that's just, it just gets kind of annoying whenever it does that. But other than that, you know, this gun is great. For the price, it is just awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the pros on the 19. Reliability. Many examples. These things are not perfect. You can have a jam or a hang up in them. Stovepipes, all that kind of stuff can happen. But for the most part, these guns just keep on running. With such little parts and all this kind of stuff, they have a very reliable gun. The trigger is solid. It's consistent throughout almost all of the Glocks except for like the 42 and the 43. All right, but one of its best attributes is the size to weight to capacity ratio. I mean, you have a gun that's 1.1 inches thick, 4.99 inches as far as height, with 15 rounds in the magazine. That's probably its best feature, because I mean, you have a gun that is lighter than most, that can hold just as many rounds. You also have the 33 and 17 round magazine compatibility. That is definitely a pro. All the interchangeability, all the accessories that you want for these guns. There's just a lot you can do with these things for sure. And they, you know, to be honest with you, at 550 bucks, they don't ever lose their value. It seems like, you know, anytime you sell a Glock, you can pretty much get what you have in it back out of it, unless you do some crazy customization. So very, very solid gun. Not the best gun on the market, in my opinion, it's not, but it is definitely very solid, and I think everybody should have at least one in their collection. All right, so as far as cons, they're not perfect. For the price of what you get, I'm gonna talk out of both sides of my mouth. You should buy one for sure. But 550 bucks, I think, for what you get is still a little bit too much, considering you have guns like the Canik at under $400. That's just my opinion. The sights, they have to do something with these sights. They probably won't, but you know, come out with a decent set of metal sights so you don't have to go out and upgrade your sights automatically. I just don't care for these, and I think it's a con, and it always will be until they change those, for me anyways. The magazines don't fall freely. It's not as bad as the Canik, but it's still something. The plastic on plastic just doesn't do that good of a job. One thing I didn't mention though, that this is a little bit more flared in here to get your magazines compared to the Canik. So that is something we noticed when we were doing some reloads, that this one is a little bit more flared. But as far as that, you know, the trigger isn't the best. Nothing about this gun is like the best, but it does everything you need it to do. And at that weight and capacity and all that, this is definitely, both of these are really carryable options. This one is just going to be a little bit heavier. Home defense, range, carry possibly. Both of these guns can definitely do what you need them to do. But the final question is this Canik at 380 bucks just as good as the $550 Glock? Based off of all the other Caniks before this one, I would say yeah. I mean, the extraction on both of these guns, the extraction is just wild. But I haven't seen any malfunctions out of my gun personally. I'm just going off of my feedback. Right now, I'd have to say yeah. Unless something catastrophic happens with the Canik, I would say it's just as good as the Glock 19, if not better. Better trigger, better sights, definitely looks better. It feels more comfortable in the hand, to me at least. I think it is definitely on par with the Glock for sure. Of course, I want to hear what you guys have to say about that. I'm sure I will get a bunch of comments on this one. Let us know what you think down below. We will see you guys in the next one, and as always, hold them down.